There's been a major wave of thefts going on in MTGO for about a month and a half now. Nobody's really talking about it, and nothing's getting done about it. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Today we are here to talk about the insane theft situation going on MTGO and Wizards' response to it, which is kind of unbelievable to me. So, to let you know, some of you may have seen it because it's going around on Twitter, there are different people who are talking about people trying to hack into their accounts, failed attempts, successful attempts. There are people who are currently waiting for Wizards to go through the fraud process, figure out what's going on with their account. This is a lengthy process. So while looking into this, I came across this article written by somebody named Lewis Kaplan. Now what's going on, what it appears is going on, is this may be targeting people who aren't well known as well, but it seems like people who stream, do any kind of YouTube, anybody who is like known in the Magic community who has an MTGO account, those are the targets of these kind of attacks. And the earliest one that I saw that was easy to find here, at least, because I'm sure they're probably more buried deep on Reddits and things like that, but Lewis here actually wrote a full-on article of the experience. So this is going to be really useful. Now this is going to be a bit of a long read. I'm going to go through the whole thing here with you guys because I want to give you the entire context. I'm not just going to pull snippets out of it, and then I'm going to tell you what this means to me, because this is something that's widespread. But here's an example of somebody who back at the beginning of July actually went through the process. So let's dive in, and it's called What Happens When Someone Loots Your MTGO Account, because that's what's going on here, guys. Now it starts out, I'm going to go ahead and preface this by telling you to change your MTGO password today. If you want the TLDR for this post, that was it. On June 6th, someone logged into my MTGO account and took everything. Not everything. They didn't do me the favor of clearing out the thousands of excess unplayable commons, but they took every card worth more than a nickel, along with all my packs and tickets. I told very few people about this for a few reasons. Number one, I thought there was a good chance that the thief was someone I knew and didn't want to provide them with any extra information. Number two, I was already putting a lot of time and energy into fixing the issue, and I didn't want to field a bunch of questions or engage in a lot of sympathy conversations. Number three, most people just really didn't need to know. I saw another person post their account had also been broken into during this time, more on this later, and making the information public didn't really seem to do anything. So, we can see here, I will read the whole thing, but and I'll give you my overall thoughts at the end, but I do want to address a few things as we go along. Now, these points that were just listed, this is one of the reasons, these thoughts right here are going to be common thoughts held by a lot of people who are dealing with this scenario. Because remember, like I said, this is targeting people who are in the Magic public eye. So it's a different scenario. People aren't talking about it. So now he goes on, why am I posting now? Honestly, the Wizards of the Coast investigation process was very slow and opaque. Wizards, when we go through this, you'll see Wizards is not doing a good job with these kind of scenarios. So, I was left in the dark about what was going on behind the scenes, which was frustrating and left me wondering what was going on constantly. I had a moment of questioning about whether I would share this information at all, as it might make it easier for someone to steal in the future, but a minimally intelligent thief would likely look into this all in advance anyway, while a victim will be forced to play catch-up after they've already been swindled. Yes, Wizards' investigation process is, we have all the information, we are not going to tell you anything, even when we're done, we're not going to tell you what we've done about it. That's our policy. It's very, very non-consumer friendly. It's very much slanted towards what's best for the company, keep everything to ourselves. So, continuing on, into the narrative, he says, I share cards with a handful of people on MTGO. It's one of the best ways to save money. Rather than spending $100 on a playset of some modern staple, you can spend 30 seconds logging onto a friend's account and borrowing cards you know they're not using, and then just put them back when you're done. It's fast, it saves you a ton of money, and it's super insecure. Anyone with access to your account can really do anything they want with it in any window of time when they know you won't be logging on. So you obviously need to really trust anybody you're doing that with. And so that's always the big trade-off with security, right? No one wants to be inconvenienced with extra logon checks or 2FA, two-factor authentication, which is what 2FA is. 2FA are extra logon checks, or even keeping your password to yourself, because that takes time. So on Tuesday night, June 5th, I logged on to 2 friends' accounts to borrow some cards in order to test for the standard RPTQ. During this transaction, I very luckily noticed that I still had a lot of modern cards from insert name, maybe worth $300 to $350, and returned them. This was late at night, so after I had the standard deck together, I logged off. The reason this is lucky is because they got raided and lost a bunch of their stuff. So they're saying, I'm glad I was able to return these borrowed cards before everything got taken away, for anyone who wasn't following that part. After work the next day, I logged on to play a league, and I noticed that it said I didn't have any legal decks together. On occasion, MTGO takes an unreasonably long time to load your collection, and that was the first explanation I reached. So logically, you look for what's the simplest explanation. Why does my account look like this? It's probably just taking time to load up. So he switches over to the collection tab, noticed a couple of reward packs, you know, the blue ones that have promo cards inside them, and cracked them open. That part all seemed to work fine. Next, I clicked on the deck I built the night before. About 80% of it was marked as missing. The most likely explanation in this moment was that one of my friends had logged into my account and taken the cards they needed for the same deck without telling me. Wouldn't be the first time. So I checked the MTG Borrows Google Doc that shows who's borrowed cards from each other. They all keep track of it that way. And nothing looks like it matches up with this recent change. I look back in my collection tab, filter for all mythic rares, and find they're basically all gone. I relog once more just to make sure this wasn't a bug, but still, everything is gone. At this point, I'm in damage evaluation mode. I check my rares, flip through old decks, look at my ticket count, and for those of you who don't know about Arena, tickets are essentially, tickets are like $1. Every ticket you have is like having $1 in the real world. That's how it works in the MTGO economy. So he was checking how many dollars he had kicking around. So he flips through his old decks, looks at his ticket counts, scans his old packs, and comes to the conclusion that it's a total loss. But he didn't really have a good idea for his account what it was worth overall, what he had lost. But he figured with a solid collection of modern staples, probably lost at least $1,500 worth, and he was down to scraps. I actually had plans that night I ended up keeping to play bar trivia, but before I left for it, I changed my MTGO password, told the very small handful of people who had borrowed more than $40 worth of cards about the breach, messaged a friend who worked at Wizards of the Coast if there were any steps I should take on top of opening a customer service ticket. Opened a customer service ticket. I made sure to tell them about my movement of cards on Tuesday so they wouldn't suspect, insert name, for taking a bunch of modern cards late at night. Googled sell MTGO account and emailed every company on the first page of results asking if they had any records of transactions. Pretty thorough. During this process, I noticed that a few bots will pay out in Bitcoin, and that if the thief used this payment method, I was very likely to never see any kind of justice. We're not even dealing with PayPal in some of these situations. Bitcoin is way easier to slide and be stealth criminal with. For most of the people I talked to about with, I just said, my stuff got stolen. I have no idea if or when I'll be getting it back. If you need your cards back before they get figured out, let me know, and I'll reimburse you for the cost. My Wizards of the Coast friend basically told me to go with the standard practice of opening a ticket, but that they'd see if there are any extra actions I should take. Nothing came of this, which was fine. I don't expect every person at a company to have influence over unrelated tasks. That makes perfect sense. Most of the bot chain companies got back to me. And this is the thing you have to understand about the bot. For those of you who don't know, because some of you don't know MTGO, so let me break down how the economy works. As I mentioned, the tickets are like $1. That's what everybody uses. You buy event tickets from Wizards of the Coast specifically. They are used to get into events, but they're also just used as currency for the economy. Everyone uses them as dollars. So you can buy cards from bots using these tickets and sell cards to bots using these tickets and get tickets from them. That's how it works. This has replaced trading pretty much completely. So the biggest bot networks, anybody who operates those knows having a reliable, trustworthy bot network is going to be really important so people keep coming back to you. So they're not going to be looking to scam people out, and they're going to want to resolve any kind of problems that are going to make their network look bad, like people taking advantage of it to fence stolen goods, right? So most of the bot chain companies got back to them, but none of them had any real information other than Cardbot, whose account the buy bot was very involved. And then there's a link here to the log. Obviously, we're not going to go into that. Some things to note about the log. They turned my cards packs into 1,594 tickets. So that's almost $1,600. This probably means the cost of my collection was somewhere in the range of $1,800 to $2,000 in order to buy it all back. So that's because the bots obviously have a percentage that they make off the transactions. They traded it in 2 major chunks. Now this is important. We're going to come back and talk about this, so remember this part. 2 major chunks. 3 transactions between 5:45 a.m. and 5:47 a.m. So that's 2 minutes, guys. and another 7 transactions between 11:20 and 11:29. Now that one's 9 minutes. Whoever this was, they were sloppy / bold enough to return after getting away with $1,200 on the first pass. So this we'll talk about a little more. I'll come back to it. I updated my Wizards ticket with this information and waited for a reply. They got back to me the next day, June 7th, with this. Bolding is my own case. He's bolded some of it. I'll let you know it's bolded. So the response from Wizards says, "We're sorry this happened to you. We'll investigate the incident and take appropriate action. We've opened an investigation regarding your account. To ensure there is no further damage to your account, we have deactivated." So bolded, just so you know, just by reporting this, they deactivate your account. Now, until we can verify the details of the account with you and make any changes necessary to secure your account again. I also recommend you change passwords on your computer and email accounts, as these may have been compromised as well. Investigations typically last about 2 weeks. They lock your account down for 2 weeks. You lose access to your account for 2 weeks. After the investigation has been completed, we'll contact you to inform you of our findings. Please be aware the security of your account and any action taken with your account are your responsibility as per the terms of service. Okay, bolded, remember this, guys. We will come back to this. We will come back to this. We're going to come back to this. Oh my God. Trades cannot be reversed and no compensation will be given for any potential loss. Okay. Bear in mind that per our privacy policy, we do not discuss disciplinary action taken on other players. So they're not going to tell you what they've done at all. Depending on the circumstance and result of the investigation, a player may receive a warning, a suspension, or a termination if warranted. You can assist our investigation by answering the following questions, and then they ask, do you share this account with anyone else? Does anyone else use your computer? Is your password easily guessable? Do you run any mod or bot programs for Magic Online or any other game? Have you recently run a virus scan on your computer? Is there anyone else who would know the password or security answer to this account? Because with the security answer, you can just get a password reset done on MTGO, and we'll talk about that as well. Do you use any Magic or gaming related websites or apps that would have the same username as your Magic Online username and that would list your Magic Online username on? So see, they're like, are there places where people can find what your Magic Online username is? Because it's really, really easy to get into your account with just your username. And that's why these more famous names are being targeted, because you can find out their username, and that makes it way easier to get into their account. So it says, we appreciate your patience during the investigation. We'll update you when you're able to reactivate your account. So he says, I answered the questions as best I could truthfully and replied within a few minutes. The next few days were pretty miserable, flipping between thoughts like, well, I probably just won't be able to justify playing MTGO anymore. Or, I'm very thankful I'm in a position where losing an asset worth almost $2,000 isn't going to majorly disrupt my life. That's a gut punch. It's likely, or then another one, oh, it's likely that a friend stole $1,600 from me and Wizards isn't going to tell me who it was. So suspicion and mistrust of your friends, that's brutal too. Well, testing for the RPTQ just got a lot more annoying. So there's all these different thoughts. The most lingering and disturbing aspect of all this was an idea that a friend stole from me. I've trusted a dozen or so people with my MTGO password over the years, and who knows how many of them gave it to someone else. It seems so much more likely than one of those people opportunistically raided my account than that another person was able to just crack my password. I'm certainly an over-trusting person and generally an apologist, but this was seriously testing my beliefs. So I miserably made a list. I went back to my Facebook chat logs and searched for my MTGO handle. Made a spreadsheet of everyone I can imagine I might have given my password to, or was close enough that a mutual friend might have given it to them. Considered how much they had to lose by becoming a pariah of the Magic community, how much I modeled them taking a major risk for $1,600. I thought about all the extra little factors. Who would message me out of the blue in the few days leading up to the theft? Who would use my computer in the days and weeks leading up to the theft? It sucked, but I figured that I couldn't help but think about all these things anyways, and maybe condensing all these negative thoughts into the block and leaving would let me stop wondering about them while I waited to hear more. And it mostly did its job. Nothing was really conclusive though. All it did was make me consider how much of a rampant sociopath someone would have to be to pull off a move like this. On June 13th, a week later, Wizards of the Coast got back to me. Hi Lewis, thanks for your patience while we've continued to investigate this situation. We've determined the following details. On June 6th, your account was accessed via its username and password from IP address not included. During that login session, items in your collection were traded to the users The Buy Bot and Goats Bot B in exchange for event tickets. Afterwards, 1,225 event tickets were traded from your account to the user Exigison, who's operating on the same IP address at that time. Do you know this user or have any information about anyone in the area of this IP address? Have you discovered any further information about this incident since you first contacted us? Thank you for your patience and cooperation. Alright. I looked up the IP address, saw it was a major city that a friend of mine was near, but that person was, in terms of social and moral value, very close to the last place on people I considered suspects. It was certainly a piece of evidence, but nowhere near conclusive. IP addresses are not difficult to manipulate, so if the thief were very cunning, they could even be using this as a false lead. I messaged all the bot chains again with this new account name, and one of them got back to me. Hello, Lewis. We're sorry to hear this. Was Wizards so far helpful in any way? You can check your full trade history here. The trade with us was just 19 tickets. The majority of your collection was probably sold elsewhere. However, the other account you mentioned did sell event tickets to us a week ago. All right, so the account that did this sold tickets to the bot a week ago. So they had pulled this on somebody else. If you let Wizard support contact us, we can provide them with the personal information of the receiver of the payment. Bank account number, full name, address. Please note that from our experience, the receiver of the payment is not always involved in the hack. Sometimes it's a careless Bitcoin seller that was waiting for a bank transfer before sending Bitcoin to the hacker in return. I've suggested Wizards a few times to implement some kind of IP address protection. Click on an email link to approve when somebody from a different IP address logs into your account, or a two-factor authentication, but so far they've not implemented anything of the kind. Do you see this? This guy, whoever's doing this, Bram from GoatBots, this is a good dude here. This is how you run a business. It's just 19 tickets, and he could have just been like, whatever. But he said, yeah, you know what? Sorry that this happened. Have you heard anything back from Wizards? Here's our logs. Here you can find the information with us. On top of that, the username that you're talking about did do a transaction with us a week ago. Like, tell Wizards about it. Contact them. We'll release the information to them. We've tried to get them to do these protections, which is something we're going to talk about once we get to the end of this, because this is just infuriating. So, a major step forward. I messaged Wizards of the Coast again, relaying all this information. At this moment, I was really hopeful. Man, Lewis is a soldier. This guy's a trooper. GoatBots was cooperating, and the information would surely be valuable. I also sent them a list of friends' screen names, just in case any of them had ever been used from that IP address. There were still a few missing pieces, though. In Wizards of the Coast email, they said 1,225 tickets had been transferred to that other screen name, but the trade log showed my thief had liquidated my collection for 1,594 tickets, plus some tickets of my own. The hope faded quickly over the next few weeks. I hadn't heard anything from Wizards of the Coast. They weren't responding to my emails. So disheartening. I even noticed on Twitter that Andrew Johnny Hot Sauce Shrout had his account broken into just a few days before my breach, and he had seen no progress. And I've seen messages on Facebook, on Twitter going through this saying that they're weeks into the process for some people with getting no response, nothing going on. So, next stop, and this is where it stood for a while. If you're hoping for a dramatic ending where I unmask the thief, let me apologize in advance. I got this email on Friday, June 29th, 23 days after the looting. Lewis, thank you very much for your patience, your infinite patience, while we've continued to investigate the situation. Our investigation has concluded that your account was accessed using your registered username and password by a malicious actor from an IP address in Sweden. During this access, the malicious actor traded with users to liquidate them for your collection to collect event tickets, which they later sold to a third party. Unfortunately, the cards traded could not be recovered as they've entered the greater trade sphere of Magic Online and are with users totally unrelated to your account's compromise. Now, we'll come back to this because let me read this again, because this is where it gets really, really frustrating and ugly. Unfortunately, the cards traded could not be recovered as they've entered the greater trade sphere of Magic Online and are with users totally unrelated to your account's compromise. So let's continue onwards. We've reclaimed the event tickets items sold from your account, 1,625. Those should now be returned to your collection. We believe your account's compromise is the result of compromised login information from outside sites or services. We urge you to ensure your login information is unique from service to service to protect you from situations such as these. Unfortunately, we have no further information to provide regarding the malicious actor. At this time, we consider this investigation closed, and they follow it off. Just gotta love this. Please be aware that the security of your account is your responsibility, and Wizards of the Coast cannot assume responsibility for any potential losses incurred. Now, on first reading of this, I completely glossed over the sentence where they mentioned returning 1,625 tickets to my account, but I logged on and they were there. I'm certainly out quite a bit from the process in terms of time, money, stress, and as it turns out, undue suspicions. I checked Twitter later that day, found out Shroud's case had also been resolved on the same day, and the thief had also been from the same place. It now seems like too much of a coincidence for it to be anyone but a person unknown to me. If you stole it, you're a friend of mine and are reading this right now, damn, you're good at this and probably make money doing something way more legitimate. The fact that the exact same person stole from him and this other unrelated guy who was not under the same trade system makes it way less likely that this was his security compromise. My guess is after all this, I made an account on Magic Messy Board at some point in the last 15 years. My credentials were a bit too close to those of my MTG account. Someone probably got a hold of the wildly unsecured data through there and went on a thieving spree using the information. If you talk to me at any point in the last month and I seem distant or out of it, there's a good chance it was a result of all this. Maybe I was working on some new information. Maybe I spent the afternoon putting your name on a list. Sorry about all that. I'm sure if you know me well enough, you know what kind of an effect doing that kind of thing would have on me, and how relieved I was to discover that the thief was almost certainly not a friend. Now go change your MTGO password. All right, guys, let's talk about the messed up parts of this, okay? The situation where, like, they say they're not gonna give out any kind of information about what's done, but it's like, okay, we found the malicious actor who clearly has to be that username that they gave earlier. There's no reason to not give out information about what you're doing in terms of penalizing people. There's no reason to do that except to protect the company from people going, you're not penalizing them hard enough, you're letting people get away with stuff. It just lets them write stuff off and say they've handled it when they haven't. So that is a major issue, but honestly, it's the way that they handle things, okay? They say that they can't resolve trades, okay? Like, they say that they can't undo trades. Let me find that phrasing again here. Sorry, it's going to take a little bit to find the chunks that I was talking about here when it comes to it. So it talks about the cards traded cannot be recovered as they enter the greater trade sphere of Magic Online and are with users totally unrelated to your account's compromised. Well, how did you recover the tickets then? Like, the argument doesn't make any sense, because you say that they're sold. The Magic the Gathering Online doesn't have a way to sell tickets. You can't sell the tickets back to Wizards of the Coast, right? You can only sell them to other people, but that selling involves a monetary transaction through another medium. But the tickets are traded back and forth through MTGO, through a trade system, what they consider a trade, the exact same way that the cards were turned into tickets. It's the exact same system. The exact same malicious actor, you know, traded those cards off. All of this can happen inside of 2 minutes. Inside of 2 minutes, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. There's no reason they can't have a rollback problem. They say that a program, I should say, they say they can't get the cards back because they've entered the greater sphere of Magic Online. Okay, so what's the argument supposed to be? We can't artificially increase the supply of cards? You've just given him tickets. If he spends any of those tickets buying booster packs, you've just artificially increased the amount of cards that are out there in the market through your actions of reversing a trade. You're just saying it's not a trade by calling it a sale, because you understand the optics that if you refuse to touch that kind of stuff, that the company would crash and burn. But it's literally a situation where they're trying to say we don't reverse trades while reversing trades and labeling them as something else. Oh, going, it's a sale. Inside your system, it looks exactly the same. You can't see outside the system what has happened. You don't know what happened when these event tickets got transferred along. They ended up in a bot system. You don't confiscate anything back from the bot or anybody, right? You leave it all out there. So the argument, we can't get the cards back because they're already out in the wild. Well, if you can restore the tickets, why? Like, the crazy part is the system they're using is slower and worse. Like, they're taking this guy's time. You get the tickets back, which is a multi-flawed system. Let me explain to you guys why, because this may not have dawned on you. But if the person who sells your stuff just goes to an unscrupulous bot because they don't even care, let's say the person who hacks in doesn't even know what a good bot is. If they're not an experienced hacker, and they don't know to go to certain bots because certain bots pay out higher, they could go to a much, like, more cutthroat bot that gives way lower rates. I'm going to try and lay this out as like imagine you were in somebody's house and you could sell everything in their house. You weren't allowed to keep anything in their house, but you could sell anything you wanted in their house for any price, and you got to keep every penny. So they have gigantic, like, blocks of gold, and somebody comes in and goes, I'll give you a nickel for that block of gold. And you're like, yeah, bro, give me that nickel. Because you can't take that block of gold. So to you, that block of gold is zero. In fact, if you get caught with that block of gold, you're in trouble. But that nickel is untraceable, and it's yours. So you just sell all this stuff off, right? And the way Wizards' response of giving you the tickets back would be like if you went to the police and said, this guy stole this block of gold to me from me and sold it for a nickel. And the police went, we've concluded our investigation. That block of gold that was stolen from you was sold for a nickel. Somebody else has it, and we know who has it, but we can't get it back because it's out there. It belongs to somebody else now. But here's your nickel back, because that's what he sold it for. So now that's the official market value of it. Like, that's what Wizards of the Coast has done. They've said, your cards or whatever that thief decided they were worth selling them for. They turned around and said, we won't reverse trades, but we just reversed a trade. We allowed the thief to determine what your collection's worth. Here's enough to not get your cards back. In 2 minutes, someone was able to do that to this guy's account. Now, here's the crazy thing, guys. I want you to think about playing on a Minecraft server or any video game server, any video game where it does backups, right? Every time you log off of MTGO, it could do like a snapshot backup of your fucking account. Then when you do an investigation and they freeze your account, they could just go, boom, boom, back. Oh, look, the snapshot, it's been restored. The argument can't be, no, we can't do that because we got to pull cards back from other people's accounts. You're willing to give tickets for him to restore the cards back to his account from buying them from bots. You're willing to restore tickets to his account for him to go and buy booster packs trying to get cards. The tickets have to maintain the value. They can't allow the tickets to get nipped out that way because the tickets are where Wizards get the money. But they can literally just go, as per our policy, this is your fault. It's never our issue. We don't have to do anything for you. And Wizards of the Coast has the most lackluster security too. They blame security on us without giving us any tools to protect ourselves. And it's even more egregious because you can see professional individuals like Bram from GoatsBots has contacted them saying, please, two-factor authentication. If you guys don't know what two-factor authentication is, that's stuff that even Twitter has. Twitter, you know how Twitter, you don't even make, Twitter doesn't have anything worth value in it. It's just, oh, I don't want my friend Amanda who follows me to see a picture of some goat's dong that somebody else would share if they hack my Twitter account. So Twitter has it set up, and everything has it set up now. Guys, when you log into almost everything nowadays, it goes, give us your phone number for two-factor authentication to protect your account. Give us your phone number. Let us protect your account. Wizards, none of that. They have no two-factor authentication. They don't protect your account if you're logged in from other IP addresses. Like everything else, it goes, hey, you just logged in from a different computer. Is this you? Could you just give us a little information to guarantee it's you? Not only will Wizards not give that when it's been suggested, they'll turn around and go, we don't reverse trades, okay? So we just reverse trades. Here's why we're not reversing the trades and giving you back all your cards. We just reversed the trade to give you the tickets back, and we consider this case closed. Like, that's their philosophy. Just get fucked, shut up, get lost. Lock the guy out of his account for weeks. Let the thief rob him blind, and then go, the thief set the value of all your possessions. Here you go. Imagine that as a criminal system, guys. Imagine that. Imagine somebody could rob you, all of your stuff, sell it for a nickel, and now everything you owned is worth a nickel. Because that's the world that Wizards of the Coast lives in. And people are out there for the last month and a half, they've been robbing thousands and thousands of dollars from people. And Wizards of the Coast goes, here's your nickel. Get fucked. We're done.
Undeniable proof that Perp is soft and fluffy on the inside. Because together, we are the sixth color of magic.